Unsane is a film that will have you questioning your own ability to perceive what is real and what is not, at least for the first 60% of it. At that point, it stops being so ambiguous, but you still have those gnawing questions. Is our main character Sawyer actually experiencing these things, or is this part of some grand delusion in her own mind? Is some of it real and some of it is part of a delusion? I really had to sit with this film and think about it before I fully understood what the film was trying to do. It is unfortunately all too common for victims like Sawyer of abuse, of stalking, of this kind of harassment that she was experiencing from David to simply not be believed by anyone around them. And it gets so pervasive that the person who's experiencing these things starts to question their own reality. The story starts with main character Sawyer, who's just moved to a new town about 450 miles away from her old one, started a new job. She's getting a performance review after a week at this new job from her new boss, who is creepy and leering at her from across the room. She has a video call with her mother, which is a clear attempt from Sawyer to make her mother feel as though everything is fine. But things are not fine. Sawyer is in a bad headspace, and so she looks for support, mental health support for victims of stalking. She ends up getting connected to this facility, a behavioral health facility called Highland Creek, where she is matched with a counselor. And unfortunately, that first session does not feel very helpful at all, though Sawyer does explain the circumstances that brought her to that city. She basically fled her old city of Boston because she was being stalked by a man named David, and she went so far as to basically run and try to throw him off her trail. The counselor, who hasn't been all that helpful, asks near the end of the session whether Sawyer has ever had thoughts of harming herself, to which Sawyer replied yes. And then she asks if she thought how she would do it, to which Sawyer explained how she would go about doing that. At this point, the counselor gets really cagey and uncomfortable and basically says here are some routine forms to fill out and won't answer any more questions of Sawyer until she does. Sawyer fills it out, apparently not reading too carefully, because after submitting it and being brought deeper and deeper into the hospital, she starts to realize that she just signed a voluntary commitment for 24 hours. That length of time grows from 24 hours to 7 days as she gets more and more agitated by the other residents, by the members of the staff, and even goes so far as to punch a man that she claims is her stalker, David. She befriends another resident who explains to her that she's just a victim of an insurance scam, that the facility purposefully took her in and is trying to hold her for the maximum amount of time to milk her insurance for the payment. She becomes more and more confrontational with the staff as they refuse her demands to be released. They don't believe her when she says the man that they know as George is actually her stalker, David, and they continue to do things like sedate her, hold her down, and even strap her to her bed. Eventually, things escalate to the point where she is put into solitary confinement, and at this point, the man who's been calling himself George breaks into her room and explains that, yes, she's correct. He's David, and he's here to finally start their life together by breaking her out and bringing her to a cabin far, far away from other people. When I first watched the movie, I got a little disappointed at this point that the kind of straightforward answer was the answer. I was expecting some bigger twist, but upon reflection, I think that that was the whole point. The movie wants us to experience the dissonance of seeing this person who is so firm in their convictions as to what's going on, as to their reality, and feel as though they're deluded, that there's something else going on and that we're missing something, and clearly this person's a little off their rocker. I think it's on purpose that the film just tells us that the straightforward answer is the answer as to what's going on, at the point where we are least likely to believe it. We have the initial example of guilt of feeling that Sawyer was right the whole time and we didn't believe her, as well as that gnawing feeling of the reality as we're seeing it unfold in front of our very eyes still doesn't feel quite real. Sawyer herself, near the end of her stay, even explains to her resident friend that she's no longer sure she knows what's real or whether it's all in her head. I think the ultimate point of the film is to get us, the audience, to understand how simple and easy it was for everybody else in the story to discredit Sawyer, even as we're following her point of view. And then the added experience of questioning our own perception of reality, even when it's right in front of our face. And in that lens, the film is wildly successful. It makes you think, it makes you question your biases. Only a few more movies left in 31 Days of Horror. If you want to watch them too, the list of movies is in my pinned videos.